Welcome back to our YouTube channel, The Book Digest. In today's episode, we're diving into a powerful summary of Pre-Suasion by Robert Cialdini. Now, a lot of us know his classic book, Influence, right? But in this one, Cialdini argues there's a secret that comes before all of that. It's a mind-blowing idea, really. Just think about that for a second. What if the most critical moment for getting a yes happens before you even open your mouth to ask? This is the central mystery Cialdini unravels. He says the most effective persuaders aren't just masters of their message, they are masters of the moment before it's delivered. They don't just change minds, they first change your state of mind. And that, right there, is the core concept he calls pre-suasion. It's all about getting your audience ready to hear you, ready to agree with you before you've even asked the question. It's about setting the stage, making sure your big idea lands on fertile ground. So how do you do that? Well, Cialdini calls this stage setting a privileged moment for change. And it's basically this tiny window of time where you can guide someone's focus. The principle behind it is incredibly simple, but it is so profound. Whatever we're thinking about at any given moment, our brain automatically thinks it's more important. This is really the engine that makes persuasion work. When you can channel someone's attention onto a specific concept, that concept becomes the lens they see everything else through. Suddenly, that thing is the most important factor in their decision, whether it makes logical sense or not. Let me give you a brilliantly simple example from the book. Let's say you need a favor. Before you ask for it, you just ask the person, "Hey, do you consider yourself a helpful person?" Now, almost everyone is going to say, "Yeah, of course." By doing that, you've just primed them to think about their own helpfulness. So when you follow up with your request, they're way more likely to agree because they want to be consistent with that helpful identity you just brought to the front of their mind. So clever, right? So channeling attention is clearly the key. But how do we actually do it? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of capturing and holding someone's focus, which all starts with one simple, powerful idea. What's focal is causal. Say that a few times. This is such a crucial mental shortcut our brains take. Whatever we are focused on, we instinctively believe is the cause of what's happening. So here's how that plays out in the real world. Our attention gets snagged by something. We automatically see that thing as super important, and then we give it all the power. A perfect example is a CEO. When a company's stock skyrockets or plummets, who gets all the credit or all the blame? The CEO. Their face is all over the news, right? It's the focal point, so our brains just assume they are the single biggest cause, totally ignoring the thousands of other factors, like market conditions, competitors, and so on. Now, Cialdini breaks down these attention getters into two types. First, you've got what he calls attractors. These are kind of the blunt instruments, things related to sex, danger, or just something new and different. They grab your attention instantly. But to hold that attention, you need magnetizers. And the most powerful magnetizer of them all, it's mystery. Posing a question, creating a little puzzle, it creates this knowledge gap that our brains just feel compelled to fill, and that keeps us totally locked in. Okay, so once you've captured and held someone's attention, you can move on to the next step, using the power of association. This is where you really start creating these mental connections that prime them for whatever your message is. You see, our minds are relentless connection-making machines. The words you use, the images you show, even the physical room you're in can create these powerful subconscious links. Think about an online furniture store. They don't just show you a picture of a sofa, do they? No, they put it on a background of soft, fluffy clouds. They're priming that feeling of comfort before you even read a single word of the description. And this effect can be surprisingly physical. I mean, it gets kind of weird. In one famous study, participants were asked to briefly hold a drink for a researcher. If they held a warm coffee, they later rated that researcher as having a warmer, more generous personality. And if they held an iced coffee, you guessed it, they rated the person as colder and more distant. The actual physical sensation literally primed their social judgment. It's wild. This whole idea even extends to where you sit in a meeting. Cialdini calls this persuasive geographies, and he gives this very specific piece of advice. Whatever you do, avoid sitting next to the person you want to influence. Instead, he says you should sit directly across from them. Okay, but why? It's because sitting across from them gives you visual prominence. And as we just learned, what's focal is causal. When someone can see you clearly while you're talking, their brain subconsciously assigns more credibility, more importance, and more responsibility to you and your message. It's a simple little hack, but it's rooted in this deep psychology. All right, so many of us know Cialdini's original 6 principles of influence from his first book. They're legendary. But in Pre-Suasion, he drops a bombshell. He reveals a new 7th principle. And to understand its unique power, we first have to ask a pretty interesting question.
We all know that getting people to like us is a huge part of persuasion. That's one of the original principles. But what if there's something deeper? Something that goes beyond just, oh, I like that person, into a much more powerful territory of human connection.
The answer is unity. This is the 7th principle of influence, and honestly, it might just be the most powerful one of them all. So what exactly is unity? It's all about shared identity. It's that moment when someone sees you not just as a person they like, but as one of them. It's that critical shift in their brain from thinking you and I to feeling a sense of we. And when you can establish that shared in-group identity, their impulse to agree with you just skyrockets. Just look at this staggering data from a study. It's absolutely nuts. Students were asked to get their parents to complete a survey. When the students were offered a personal reward for doing it, the success rate was, okay, about 20%. But when the appeal was framed in terms of family unity, just by asking them to help because this is something we do for each other in our family, the completion rate jumped to nearly 100%, 97%. That is the incredible power of we. And you can build this sense of unity in 2 main ways. First, by highlighting what you share, what Cialdini calls being together. This could be family, nationality, where you're from, or even just a shared hobby. And second, through acting together. This is when you do things in unison, like singing a song together or marching in step. Those shared actions literally blur the lines between individuals and forge this incredibly powerful bond. Okay, so these tools are clearly powerful. I mean, really powerful. Which brings us to an essential and, frankly, unavoidable question we have to talk about. I mean, when you're arranging the moments before a message to make someone more receptive, where do you draw the line? Is this just good ethical communication, or is it a toolkit for manipulation? Cialdini confronts this question head-on, and he argues that while these tools absolutely can be misused for a short-term gain, doing that is ultimately self-destructive. Unethical practices, he says, they poison the well. They create this culture of dishonesty that just rots an organization from the inside out. The only true, sustainable influence comes from using these principles to build genuine, mutually beneficial connections. So, the crucial point here isn't just knowing these tools exist, it's understanding the responsibility that comes with them. The power to persuade doesn't start with your words, it starts with the moment you create beforehand. And so the real question is, how will you choose to arrange that moment? Thanks for watching.